The tape labeled Friday 13. Part 1. The Basement Discovery. I've lived in this house for 9 years. It isn't old enough to be called historic, but it's got that tired feeling to it. The kind of place that's seen too many winters and not enough light. My wife and I bought it because it was cheap and close to where I worked. I'm an insurance claims adjuster, or at least I was back then. The house came with squeaky stairs, a basement that smelled like rust and mildew, and more spiders than any reasonable man should tolerate. I used to joke that if anything in that basement ever started moving on its own, I'd burn the place to the ground. Turns out that was closer to a promise than I knew. It started the weekend before Halloween, and coincidentally, 1 week before Friday the 13th. My wife, Dana, had gone to visit her sister for a few days, leaving me home alone with a to-do list longer than my arm. The kind of list that included things like finally clean out the basement. So that's what I did. I spent most of that Saturday hauling up old boxes, tossing out moldy newspapers, and wondering why we ever kept so much junk. The air down there was heavy, humid even, like the house was sweating from the inside out. My flashlight beam cut through the dust, catching the shapes of forgotten furniture, rusted tools, and cobweb-covered picture frames. Then I found the box. It was sitting behind the old water heater, half collapsed and damp at the bottom. Written on the cardboard in thick black marker were the words, "Do not open, F13. For a second, I thought it was Dana's handwriting. She'd always been the kind to label things obsessively. But why? Curiosity got the better of me. Inside, I found exactly one thing: a VHS tape. It was black, scratched, and unmarked except for a white label that simply read, Friday. No TH. I laughed at first. Maybe it was some kind of prank from the previous owners. But then I remembered there hadn't been. That's when something in my stomach turned. I don't know why I decided to watch it. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was the quiet of the empty house. I still had an old VCR in the living room, a relic from college, and the thing miraculously worked when I plugged it in. The tape started like any other home recording: static, a low hum, a few seconds of tracking noise. Then the image appeared. It was my basement. Same cracked concrete floor, same half-collapsed boxes, same rusted pipes in the background. The camera was handheld, shaking slightly as though the person behind it was breathing hard. The timestamp in the corner read Friday 13 at 12 a.m. I felt my throat tighten. The feed was grainy, but I could clearly see myself on the screen, or someone who looked exactly like me, walking into frame. I froze. I hadn't recorded anything in the basement, ever. On the tape, I looked older, maybe by a few years. My hair was shorter, my beard gone. The me on the screen carried a flashlight and a small hammer, moving slowly as if expecting something. He turned toward the camera at one point, and I swear to God, it looked like he was staring straight at me through the screen. Then he said, in a voice that was unmistakably mine, "If you're watching this, don't stay in the house on Friday the 13th. And the tape cut to static. I sat there for a long time, just staring at the screen. My hands had gone clammy. Every instinct in me said it had to be a joke. Maybe someone spliced together old footage or deep-faked my face somehow. But that didn't explain the basement or the timestamp. I replayed it. The same static, the same trembling frame, the same warning. Only this time, something different happened. Right before it cut to static, I noticed movement in the background of the shot, just behind the me on screen, a shadow. It wasn't human-shaped exactly, too tall, too narrow. It stretched across the concrete floor like it didn't belong to anything. When the image went black again, the VCR whirred for a moment and stopped. Then, faintly, from the basement below me, I heard something knock. 3 times. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. I didn't sleep that night. I locked the basement door and left every light in the house on. Every time I thought I was drifting off, I swore I heard faint static downstairs, like the hum of the TV when it's stuck between channels. The next morning, I called Dana. I tried to sound casual, told her I was thinking of getting rid of some old stuff in the basement. She said that was fine, and asked if I'd finally thrown out that box of tapes her uncle left behind years ago. I froze. "What box of tapes?" I asked. She said she thought there was one, some old VHS stuff her uncle used to record local TV shows on. He died before we met. That didn't make sense. We'd moved into this house newly built. There was no uncle's box. But I didn't want to sound paranoid, so I just mumbled something about checking again and hung up. When I went back down there that afternoon, I noticed something that made my stomach lurch. The box I'd found, the one labeled "Do Not Open F-13, was gone. I tore through the basement looking for it. Nothing. Not even the wet spot where it had been sitting. But when I looked up, near the old metal shelves, I saw something else. Another tape. Just sitting there. No box this time. Just a single VHS cassette with the same handwriting scrawled across the label. Friday 13, Part 2. I didn't play it right away. I told myself I wouldn't, but that night, I couldn't resist. The moment I hit play, I knew something was wrong. The first few seconds were the same, static, then the timestamp. Fry 13, 12:07 a.m. The camera panned across the basement, and again, there was me, the older me. But now I looked terrified. My hands were shaking as I held the flashlight. There was something written on the wall behind me in black paint. "It's not the house." Then, from the edge of the frame, I saw movement. The shadow again. Taller now. Closer. I watched myself on the screen spin around, drop the flashlight, and whisper, "She's here." Then the tape ended. I shut off the TV and just sat there, heart hammering. I didn't understand what I'd just seen. She's here. Who the hell was she? That's when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the security camera app I'd installed a year earlier, the one that monitored the basement. I rarely checked it because the motion sensor never picked up anything. But the alert said, "Motion detected, basement, 12:07 a.m." The exact time from the tape. I opened the feed. The camera was pointed at the far end of the basement near the shelves. For a moment, all I saw was stillness and dust. Then, something moved. A faint shape, pale and slow, drifting across the frame like smoke. It stopped near the bottom of the stairs. Then, it looked up. And I swear to you, even through the grainy black and white feed, I could see it was the shape of a woman's face. I slammed the app shut and unplugged every device in the house. By then, my breathing was ragged, my palms sweating so bad I could barely hold the phone. When I finally gathered the nerve to look again, the notification was gone, replaced by a new one. Video saved. Friday 13, Part 3. Except I hadn't saved anything. The phone wouldn't let me delete it. Every time I tried, it reappeared. And when I checked the living room, the TV had turned itself back on. The VCR was playing, and inside it was a tape was already running, one I hadn't put in. The TV shouldn't have been on. I hadn't touched it. I know that for a fact because I was upstairs, pacing the hallway, too afraid to even look toward the basement door. But when I came back into the living room, The static glow from the screen filled the walls like fog. The VCR light blinked red. The machine hummed, whirring softly as though it had just started playing something. I walked toward it, heart pounding. On the screen was a frozen frame. The timestamp read Friday 13, 11:59 p.m. Then it began to move. The camera shook slightly, the same shaky handheld style as before, but this time it wasn't the basement. It was my living room. Same furniture, same TV, same crooked painting on the wall behind the couch, and sitting there, exactly where I was standing now, was me. I don't know how long I stood there watching myself on the screen. I was breathing shallow, eyes darting from the TV to the room around me, checking for any difference between what I was seeing and where I was standing. On the tape, I looked exhausted, dark circles under my eyes, pale skin, hands trembling. I was staring directly at the camera again. If you're watching this, it means she's close. You need to listen to me very carefully. My recorded self turned his head slightly, as if listening for something off camera. She doesn't knock. Not anymore. Now, she plays. A noise, faint but sharp, came from the background of the video, like a child laughing far away. Then, from somewhere in my real house, that same laugh echoed. Once. Soft. Behind me. I spun around, flashlight shaking in my hand. Nothing there. When I looked back at the screen, the version of me on the tape was gone. The camera now faced the front door. Someone was standing there, their face hidden behind the frosted glass. Knocking. Not 3 times like before, but 13. I pulled the plug from the TV and threw the VCR power cord across the room. The sound stopped instantly, but the silence that followed felt heavier, thicker, almost alive. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Then, click. The sound of the basement door unlocking itself. I froze. I hadn't touched that door since I found the first tape. Now it was creaking open inch by inch, the old hinges whining softly like something breathing through them. The smell that rose from the basement was wet, metallic, almost electric. My phone buzzed again. A new notification. Security camera 2. Motion detected. The basement feed opened automatically. The camera was tilted slightly now, like someone had touched it. At first, all I saw was static, then a face filled the frame. White, hollow-eyed, lips twitching in slow, unnatural movements. She was smiling. And in that faint, distorted recording, she whispered something. It was muffled at first, but then the sound cleared. "You can't stop the recording." I ran. I grabbed my car keys, bolted out the front door, and didn't stop until I was halfway down the street. I don't even remember locking the door behind me. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, just staring at the house from a distance. The living room light flickered on and off every few seconds, like the power was surging. Then, through the window, I saw movement. A figure, my figure, pacing inside. Except I was out here. That was when I realized what the tapes were showing me weren't past events. They were recordings of what was going to happen. I spent the night at a cheap motel near the highway. I told Dana I was working late, that something came up. She didn't press me. She was used to my long nights. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, pale, stretched. That static smile burned into my brain like a watermark.
At 3 a.m., I decided to watch the clip again on my phone, the one from the security camera. Only when I opened the app, there were new files. Friday 13 Part 4.mp4. Friday 13 Part 5.mp4. I hadn't recorded those. I clicked the first one. It showed the motel parking lot, the view from the very window beside my bed. The timestamp read 3:02 a.m. A static shimmer passed across the screen. Then, from the edge of the frame, the same pale figure appeared, walking toward the door of my room. Knock, knock, knock. The camera shook violently, as if the recording itself didn't want to exist. I glanced at the window. Nothing there. But then, the door handle rattled.
I didn't open it. I just sat frozen, staring at it from the bed, heart slamming against my ribs. The knocking stopped. For a long time, there was silence. Then, faintly, from the other side of the door, I heard my own voice whisper, "Don't stay in the house on Friday the 13th. The same line from the first tape, only now it wasn't coming from the TV. It was me outside my own door. I must have blacked out at some point because when I opened my eyes again, sunlight was bleeding through the curtains. My throat was dry, my body aching like I'd run a marathon. The motel room looked normal, too normal. I reached for my phone. The files were gone. Every single one of them. The security app had been wiped clean, even the saved logs. But when I checked my camera roll, there was a new video sitting there. Time-stamped 7:13 a.m. The thumbnail froze my blood. It was a still frame of me sleeping. Someone had filmed me while I was unconscious. I didn't press play. I deleted it immediately, or tried to. The screen flashed once, then froze. And before I could do anything, a voice came from the phone's speaker. A woman's voice. Soft, distorted, almost like it was underwater. "It's not the house, Michael." She said my name. I hadn't told anyone what was happening. I drove home later that morning, mostly because I didn't know what else to do. I told myself I'd pack, call Dana, get out of town. But when I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something strange about the house. The curtains were open. I'd closed them before leaving. And on the porch, right in front of the door, was a package. A plain cardboard box. No address label. Just 3 words written across it, in that same jagged handwriting. For Friday 13. Inside was another VHS tape and a note. The paper was old, yellowed at the edges. It said, "You're almost caught up." I didn't even bother setting up the VCR this time. I threw the tape in the trash, grabbed my duffel bag, and started loading my car. But when I opened the driver door, something slid off the seat and landed on the ground. It was the same tape, the one I'd just thrown away. Only now, the label had changed. Instead of "For Friday 13, it said, "Today." I remember sitting in the driveway, staring at it, every hair on my body standing on end. The sky had gone gray, clouds pressing low. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. That's when I realized the date. Friday, November 13th. The day had finally come. I don't remember going back inside, but somehow I did. The house felt colder than before, silent. The kind of silence that hums, pressing against your ears. The TV was on again. Static. The tape was already playing. The timestamp read, Fry 13, 11:50 p.m. The screen showed the basement door. Slowly, the camera zoomed in until the entire frame was nothing but that wooden door, breathing faintly in and out, as though the house itself was alive. Then the camera turned, and I saw me. Not the older me, not the tired one from before. This was me right now. Same clothes, same cut on my hand from earlier that day. The only difference was that on the screen, I was holding a knife and smiling. My body froze in place. I watched as the version of me on the screen turned toward the camera and said, "You can't stop the recording, remember?" Then the lights in the house went out. Darkness swallowed everything. I could hear faint static, growing louder like it was inside my ears. The TV flickered once, then died completely. For a few seconds, all I could hear was my own breathing. Then, knock. Not at the door. Not from the basement. This time, it came directly behind the TV. When I heard that knock behind the TV, I didn't move at first. It wasn't just the sound, it was the rhythm. Slow, deliberate, and spaced out, as if whoever, or whatever, was behind the wall knew I was counting. 3 knocks, a pause, then one more. The TV was dark, the screen reflecting only my own terrified face. I tried to tell myself it was just the pipes or the house settling or anything rational, but deep down I knew better. There was something on the other side of that wall. I backed away, my breath coming in short, uneven bursts. The static sound that had filled the room a moment earlier hadn't completely stopped. It was faint now, like a heartbeat coming from inside the walls. Then, as I turned toward the hallway, the TV flickered on again. No signal, no tape inserted, just a black screen and text. White letters typed across the center. Recording. Live. I froze. The air in the room shifted, thick and heavy, like the atmosphere before a storm. The screen began to brighten. Slowly, an image took shape. My living room, from above, as if someone were filming me right then. I saw myself standing there, eyes wide, staring at the TV, exactly what I was doing. I looked up at the corners of the room, searching for a camera. There was nothing. No hidden lens, no blinking light. But the perspective on the screen shifted, as if someone were moving around me, circling, closing in. "You can't stop the recording." Her voice again. That same distorted, wet whisper that made the room feel smaller, colder. I stepped backward until I hit the wall. My own image on the screen did the same, perfectly in sync. Then behind me, behind both of us, the basement door slowly opened. The smell came first. That same metallic, electric scent that clung to the back of my throat. The basement light was off, but something was glowing down there. Not light exactly, more like movement, like the air itself was pulsing. The TV crackled again, showing a close-up of the open doorway.
And for a split second, I saw something moving in the dark. A hand. Thin, gray, trembling, like film melting in a projector. It reached out and gripped the edge of the doorway. I stumbled back, tripping over the coffee table, hitting the floor hard. When I looked up, the hand was gone. But the basement door was wide open now. I wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at me to leave the house, get in the car, drive until I forgot where I lived. But as soon as I stood up, the front door slammed shut on its own. The lock clicked, then the deadbolt. Then faintly, the sound of the chain sliding into place. Something didn't want me to leave. I grabbed the remote and hurled it at the TV. The screen shattered, glass splintering across the floor, but the image didn't disappear. It kept playing. Only now the picture was clearer, sharper than before, like the static had been hiding the true detail all along. On the screen, I watched myself walk toward the basement door. And before I could even process what I was seeing, I realized I was moving too. My feet carried me forward, not by choice, but by some invisible pull, like strings guiding a puppet. Each step down the basement stairs creaked louder than the last. The air grew colder with every breath. When I reached the bottom, the glow I'd seen from above was still there, a dim, pale shimmer coming from the far corner of the room where I'd found the first tape. The VCR was down there too, plugged in, running. It shouldn't have been. The screen it was connected to, a small old TV, was showing footage of me, right there, standing at the bottom of the stairs. Live recording. Only this time, the timestamp in the corner didn't say Fry 13. It said, Final. From behind the TV, I heard whispering. Dozens of voices, overlapping, echoing like multiple recordings being played at once. I recognized some of them, my own voice from the first and second tapes. But there were others too, male, female, young, old, all repeating the same phrase over and over, their tones warping and blending into one endless hiss. It's not the house, it's the tape. It's not the house, it's the tape. It's not the house, it's the tape.
Then I saw her. She stepped out of the light, slowly, her movements jerky, like each frame of her body didn't belong to the one before it. Her skin was pale gray, translucent in places, her face flickering like static. She didn't walk. She drifted. And every time the image glitched, she was closer. One flicker, 6 feet away. Next flicker, 3. Then 1. Until she was standing right in front of me. She didn't speak at first, just looked at me with those hollow eyes that didn't blink, didn't move, just absorbed everything like empty camera lenses. Then her mouth opened, impossibly wide, the skin stretching like torn film. "You're almost caught up." The same words from the note in the box. Her voice wasn't a whisper this time. It was inside my head, vibrating through my skull, filling every corner of my mind with static. Behind her, the TV crackled again. The image changed, no longer showing the basement, but the front of my house. The camera was outside now,
I could see through the window, me standing in the basement with her. The feed zoomed in slowly. Closer. Closer. Until it focused on my face, the real me, the one standing there, staring into the screen. Then, the me on the TV smiled. Something snapped. The lights exploded, plunging the basement into total darkness. I felt a surge of heat rush through the air, like a burst of electricity or flame. Then silence. When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer in the basement. I was sitting in my living room. The TV was off. The air was calm. Morning sunlight spilled through the blinds. It was quiet. Peaceful, even. For a few seconds, I thought maybe it had all been some kind of breakdown, a hallucination brought on by stress and no sleep. Then I saw the VCR. It was sitting on the coffee table in front of me. The tape inside had no label, just a blank black surface. I pressed eject. The label popped out, and for a moment I thought I saw my reflection in the glossy surface. But it wasn't me. It was her, smiling. And then the letters began to appear across the label, as if written by an invisible hand. Friday 13 Live. My phone buzzed. A new notification. Video saved by Friday13final.mp4. I opened it without thinking. The video showed me sitting exactly where I was right now. Same light, same clothes, same position. But then the me on the TV slowly looked up and said, "This is the last recording." And behind him, behind me, she appeared again. That was 3 weeks ago. The police found the house empty 2 days later. No signs of a break-in, no body, no blood. Only a TV playing static in the basement, and a VHS tape sitting beside it, still warm, as if it had just been recorded. When they played it back, there was nothing on it for the first 13 minutes. Then, faintly, the sound of knocking, 13 times, and a voice whispering just before the tape ended, "You can't stop the recording."